To another episode of Inspire People, Impact Lives. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, managing partner, Northwestern Mutual, Madison, Wisconsin. And today we have such a true story of inspiration, triumph. With us today is Austin Hatch, former member of the University of Michigan basketball program. Sorry to our Badger listeners out there. We're bringing a Wolverine on the episode, but I think you'll really appreciate his story of resilience, faith, courage, and work ethic. In his life, Austin has survived not one, but two devastating plane crashes, but was able to move forward and accomplish his dreams. And we're going to get into those today. Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it. It's an honor and privilege to be with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I would be remiss to say that I got to hear, if I didn't say this, that when Austin and I spoke for the first time, we were able to catch up on some commonalities. We had some common people in our life that we knew of each other. And Austin, part of his family grew up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where my wife's from, and his older sister went to school with my wife, Jenna, and I had heard Austin's story from my father-in-law and from Jenna, but now I get to speak and interview the man, the myth, the legend, Austin Hatch today, after years of knowing about you. So I'm really excited personally to have this conversation. So before we get started, I'm going to let you have the floor to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some questions to dig a little deeper, bud.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, so I was born to an incredible family in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Really had the childhood that most kids would dream of. Playing sports all day, going to school. I went to Canterbury School. My siblings and I went to Canterbury School, which was an incredible place to learn, and gave us a great foundation for education there. We started when we were really young, and had some great elementary school, middle school experience. But yeah, tragically, well, I should say first, my mom was the kind of woman that was, everyone's best friend. We all know those people that everyone loves and everyone wants to be around always, and kind of lights up every room she was in, kind of life of the part wherever she went. And my little brother, Ian, was the same way. I'm so full of joy, and just so happy all the time, and such a positive, optimistic person to be around. And my sister, Lindsay, was a ballerina, and she took part in the Nutcracker every year, which is a big performance in Fort Wayne Ballet. And but yeah, tragically, my family and I were flying home from northern Michigan on September 1st, 2003, Labor Day 2003, and tragically the airplane crashed and claimed the lives of my mom, my sister, and my little brother Ian. And my dad and I, grieved their loss tremendously. And I was so young, and having to cope with that loss and figure out how to adjust to a new normal, was extremely difficult. But my family and my mom's friends all stepped up and filled that role. Not filled the role of a motherly figure, but could help this out, do whatever they could to help us overcome it, as they knew my mom and siblings would have wanted. And eventually my dad was remarried to a lovely woman named Kimberly, who had 3 kids of her own, and that restored some normalcy in my life. But and I started to work really hard on my basketball skills and got to be pretty good. Fortunately, it was okay. And Coach Beion offered me at Michigan. Coach Beion offered me a scholarship on June 15, 2011, which I accepted on the spot because it was always my dream to go to Michigan. My mom went there. We had season football tickets since I was young. I think it was my first football game when I was like 2. And my dad went there, and my grandpas both went there. So it's been in my family for years, and so it was a dream come true.
You were a high-level recruit right at that time, right?
I wouldn't say high level. I mean, I was okay. I wasn't very athletic, but I could shoot. And Coach Beion, I was shooting. I was smart on the court. Coach Beion likes those guys that are shooting smart and they do well in school, things like that, and that are coachable. I had a lot of room to grow and get better, but he saw that, this is a guy that we can make into somebody pretty good, hopefully. So he gave me an opportunity to go play for him. And I think he knew it was my dream to go to Michigan too. And so it's easy to recruit guys like that who really want to be there, not just going to his school because it's their only option. They're actually, that's their number one option. So
So knowing a bit about Indiana with my wife and her family being there, um, Indiana is a basketball, haven, right? And like you have the opportunity to go to the University of Indiana or IU. I don't know if you had that opportunity or not, but obviously Bobby Knight, the famous teams from the 80s and 90s. Uh, was it ever a consideration of yours, or because your family had all gone to Michigan, did they come after you hard? I mean, tell me a little bit about the dynamics there.
Indiana didn't really come. It actually didn't. I mean, they recruited me a little bit, but never actually offered me scholarship. Maybe they would have, but I committed to Michigan after my sophomore year, which is nowadays that's almost late. Nowadays I feel like guys commit after, like one of my good friends, James Blackman Jr. from Fort Wayne, committed to play at IU before his freshman year of high school. Right. So, but yeah, Coach Beeline likes to see 2 years of good grades in high school before he offers someone. So, it was a real blessing to have that opportunity to go to Michigan, and it was always a dream of mine, as I said. But tragically, do I want to say
Well, I was
something?
just going to say before we get to that next part, because it is pretty incredible. I want to hit our. So, what age were you with the first crash?
I was 8, almost 9, about a month away from turning 9.
Did you see basketball for you with how much you poured into it? Was that somewhat of a distraction or coping mechanism for all that loss in your life?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. And really though, the real coping mechanism for me was my dad. I think for us both, I'd like to think, I'm kind of what kept him going. He's definitely what kept me going in the midst of all that. And we were always close, but really, as you can imagine, became like brothers through that, and all we experienced together. And he, like I said, he kept me going, and I like to think I was what kept him going too. And but yeah, we just kept living in the midst of that because we knew we couldn't control the event that had happened, but we just kept living in our family's honor, as we knew that that's what they would want. And
yeah. Did you or your dad have lingering injuries, side effects, or any mental stuff that stemmed from the first crash?
my dad suffered some pretty bad, some severe burns, and my burns were minor, but they healed. And yeah, my dad had nothing that prevented him from, like, for a while. I mean, he was in a coma and stuff after that for a couple weeks. And but yeah, he came out of it. He got back to, he was a really good athlete in high school, and he got back to doing triathlons and stuff like that. And so he got back to living.
Yeah.
I say got back to living. He did whatever he could to keep living. And I think part of that was just set an example for me, what it looks like to kind of, press on and keep moving forward, even when you experience an unimaginable loss. So,
Yeah. So he loses his wife, a daughter, and a son, and you lose your mom, your sister, and your little brother in
yeah,
that accident. And so I can imagine, as you say there, that you guys became like brothers because you're all you had left, right? Of the immediate family. Obviously, like you said, your mom's friends and some other family really rallied around you guys, but you guys had each other's back through that.
yeah, we did. And I'm so grateful. Obviously, of course, I'm not grateful for everything that's happened in my life, but I'm just so thankful that, that I had gotta have my dad for a while longer. And because when you're young, I mean, of course, it's very important to have for a son. I mean, obviously, a mother and a father are both extremely important, but especially in those those formative years, if you will, middle school, high school, to be able to kind of lay the foundation, show you how it's done, so to speak. I'm just so blessed to have had that. Um,
What would you say is the number one or maybe top three things that your dad's legacy left on you?
I think the biggest thing, I'll talk about this more in a few minutes, I think, but treat everyone like they're the most important thing to you at that time. And it didn't matter if you were the CEO of a company, or if you were someone with I don't know, I don't want to say lesser social status, but someone that maybe doesn't have a job that's quite as, like CEO is obviously a very big title. But if you're the janitor, he got to know Mike, the janitor at my high school, you know, and like paid attention to those people and made them know that they mattered. And you know, so here's a story. I'll just go into it now. So after the first accident, we would go to McDonald's. Although he would take me to school, we'd go to McDonald's a couple days a week. And the cashier, there was almost pretty much always at that McDonald's in the mornings we would go. Josiah was his name. This may be getting ahead of myself again, but so something my dad did. I didn't really pay attention to this much at the time because I was young, and you know, it was 6:45 or 7 in the morning. I was young, and I was, you know, early, and I didn't really want to, you know, be super engaged in things that early. And but that cashier, Josiah, so unfortunately, I was involved in a second plane crash, as you mentioned, and that cashier, Josiah, was at my parents' funeral after the second accident. Something my dad did made Josiah feel some sort of connection to him. And you think about, like, just a cashier at McDonald's. I have no idea what you could say, but you know, maybe they you know, they wait on, or they take the money from, you know, a few hundred customers a day, let's say, maybe 1,000 or 1,500 a week. I have no idea if that's even close to the right amount, right number. But something my dad did made him stand out and made Josiah feel that he needed to go, or that he should go celebrate his life after he had already passed away. And that doesn't just happen. Like, you got to be intentional and make that person feel like they're important, that they matter. And I'm not going to say that Josiah wouldn't have gone to anyone else's funeral that passed away that would go to McDonald's, but I'm just like, something my dad did. Maybe you put that, you know, maybe spent 10 extra seconds to ask Josiah about how his family was, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Just everyone matters. Everyone matters.
Yeah. No, I love that. So I did stop you as part of that second part. So fast forward, so you get that offer from Coach Beeline, and then tell us what happens.
Yeah, so I accepted the offer on June 15, 2011. It's a dream come true. But then tragically, 9 days later, we were flying to Northern Michigan this time. My dad and my second mom and I never really used the term stepmom. My dad and second mom, we were flying up to Northern Michigan, the same place we were returning from 8 years prior. And tragically, the airplane crashed and claimed the lives of my dad and my second mom. And I probably should have died, but so by the grace of God, you know, somehow survived. And, you know, I was in a coma for about 2 months. Had a long list of injuries: traumatic brain injury, punctured lung, broken ribs, broken clavicles, hematoma in my leg, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, I was in a coma for a couple months. But, you know, thanks to the grace of God and, you know, so many people in my life that have, you know, put their lives on hold to help me get better. Yeah, I mean, we fortunately made a pretty good comeback. And, you know, my sister Maria, who I lived with in Fort Wayne, after the accident, she was my guardian. My parents made her my guardian, or should anything happen, you know. Unfortunately it did. Fortunately they prepared for it. But unfortunately that, you know, preparation actually had to take effect. So yeah, I mean, I look at my life, been through some terrible stuff, but, you know, Josh, I'm blessed. I'm incredibly blessed. And I've got a lot of reasons to be grateful.
Well, your outlook and your attitude is just amazing because of the tragedy that you've gone through in your life. What are the odds of being not only in one plane crash but two?
So I read this in an article a few years after the second accident, and according to an MIT statistician named Arnold Bennett, was his name, pretty sure. He calculated that the odds of surviving one plane crash with at least one fatality are 1 in 3.4 million. 1 in 3.4 million. It's pretty slim, right? So that's the odds of surviving one plane crash with one fatality. I survived 2 plane crashes with multiple fatalities. So, you know, tragically, but fortunately, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And, you know, so using my, you know, my prestigious Michigan education, I'm sure a Badger could do this too. It's not that hard.
I'd find an actuarial science person, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 1 in 3.4 million is the odds of surviving one. 1 in 3.4 million is the odds of surviving a second one. So 1 in 3.4 million times 1 in 3.4 million is 1 in 11 quadrillion, 560 trillion. That's a 14-digit number on the denominator. So I think maybe this is not showcasing my math ability, but if the world population is 8 billion, 7 billion, I think it's 6 more zeros. So I think that's like 175,000 times the world population is the number on the denominator. I think.
Is there anyone else on the planet that you know of that survived 2 plane crashes with fatalities?
I don't think so. You know, fortunately, I mean, I'm thankful that no one else has had to go through that, but yeah. So no, that's nothing to be proud of or, you know, hang my hat on, so to speak. But yeah, I'm just blessed. And I look at it, Josh, you know, like I said, I've been through some terrible stuff, but given the fact that what happened, let's call that the worst case scenario, right? I really believe wholeheartedly that I have the best case scenario of the worst case scenario. Like, given the fact that those 2 events happened, life could not be any better than it is right now. I mean, I'm married to an incredible woman. I outkicked my coverage. I'm sure you did as well. You know, my wife and I look forward to building a family and future of our own in the years to come. And like I said, I've lost a lot, been through a lot, but man, I got a lot to be thankful for.
That's awesome. Maybe it's a simple question, maybe it's not. What is your anxiety level, or do you fly anymore?
Yeah, I do. You know, so at least prior to COVID, you know, I would fly around the country. I was on 11 planes in January, like going to speak to different companies, right? And, you know, in Austin, Texas, in Florida, and New York City. And
do you have any anxiety level anymore, or do you just put your
no, because 2 things. One, flying was a big part of my life growing up. It was almost like driving. And just because you get in 2 really bad car accidents doesn't mean you're never going to drive again. That's how I can explain it, right? Like that's the example I use. And then also, so tragically, but fortunately, I've survived 2 plane crashes. And if, you know, God forbid a 3rd one happens, survive 2, why can't I survive a 3rd one, right?
I mean, at this point,
that's the wrong attitude to have. That's the wrong attitude to have.
But it's kind of a humorous one, so it's like whatever helps you get through it. So that's great. What about for you now? Looking at, do we lose you, Austin? Chad, did we lose him?
It looks like he dropped off. Yeah. I think, let me just make a note here. Okay. I'll text him quick and see. Did it look like his computer shut off? Or he's like,
I wonder if his laptop was dying.
yeah, I wonder if it did. Let me just.
Is this view's okay?
Yeah, that'll work, man. That's cool. That's good.
Okay.
And then I was going to leave or start back on with after the accident, going back to kind of Coach Beilein. And, you know, how that reaction was and how his reaction was and how they stuck with you. That wasn't in the notes, but I thought that might be cool to cover.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So, yeah, you know, Coach Beilein is one of the most incredible.
Let me ask the question first so we give some context. Chad, you ready?
Okay. Yeah, we're good. And yeah, that's great. Ask the question again. We'll get some context and cut it in. So cool.
So, Austin, let's go fast forward after that, the second accident. Coach Beilein, I mean, you're in a coma for 2 months. So how does Coach Beilein react? And obviously Michigan stuck by you. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, you know, Coach Beilein is one of the most incredible men I've ever met in my life. And I don't think it's an accident that I committed to a place like Michigan, you know, 9 days before, you know, the second accident happened and my life was, you know, drastically changed again. But yeah, you know, when I was in a coma, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on during that time. But as soon as I came out of that coma, when I was in the hospital in Chicago in late August of 2011, um, Coach Beilein came to see me, and I was in Chicago at the RIC, the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, and he came to see me when I was in a wheelchair. I had broken my leg, parts of my leg, but it was healed by that time because I was in a coma, right? For that reason, to let my body heal. And I was 6'6". I just committed to play at Michigan, one of the best schools in the country. Whatever, think what you want, but Michigan's a great program. And and I was, like I said, I was in a wheelchair. And here's the coach of that recruited the likes of Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke, Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson. And he tells a guy that can't walk that he can't wait to have him on his team. That he can't wait to coach him someday. Whenever I was able to get to Michigan, because I missed a year of school because I was recovering. But yeah, I mean, it's just the level of appreciation that I have for all that he's done for me. I mean, it really changed the course of my life. I mean, the fact that I had Michigan in my future, I don't want to say that gave me a reason to work. And I'm sure I would like to think I would have worked as hard no matter what. But yeah, I'm just so grateful, because having Michigan gave me something to shoot for, and having basketball in my future gave me something to shoot for. So yeah, I'm just incredibly grateful.
Did the injuries from that second crash, did that impact your basketball ability at all?
Yeah, it did because so the worst of the injuries was a traumatic brain injury, and I kind of I basically had to relearn how to, I don't want to say I started from square one, but like I got to learn how to like tie shoes again. And so and take care of myself, like get dressed and like do basic day-to-day functions of living life. But like, it was funny, once I would kind of start to relearn part of it. Like once I was exposed, I didn't go to the gym for, a few weeks until after I got out of the coma. And I was in a coma. Obviously, my game wasn't going to be the exact same as I was before, and my game never got back to the level that it was before. But I once I came back, and oh, okay, I've done this before. I don't remember exactly how to do this, but I vaguely remember it. You know what I mean? And because I had done it so much, and it's not, like I said, it's not like I was like a baby learning how to shoot. It's like I'd already learned how to shoot, but I just forgotten about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was in your subconscious.
Yeah.
And it started to trickle out. Like, I guess, having never been through anything like you've been through, I'm picturing it almost like kind of deja vu, where
Exactly.
like I feel like this has happened before, but I don't exactly know what to do yet or how
Yeah.
it's going out.
Yep. All right.
So going from there, what is the biggest either life or leadership principles you learned from Coach Beilein and being at Michigan?
There's a lot. But kind of how I said with my dad, how he got to know Josiah at McDonald's. Coach Beilein doesn't serve his players' talent; he serves their heart. And I think it's easy to. I mean, I'm not a head coach, I've never been a head coach, but I would think it's easy to treat people different based on their ability, based on the role they have on the team or the organization. But Coach Beilein didn't treat me differently because I couldn't play. He gave me a role and included me in everything and let me know my role was important. And it's like, it's how we treat the people that are below us, or how we treat the people that are at the bottom of the food chain, so to speak, bottom of the totem pole. So yeah, that's one of them. And the next one, probably the biggest one, is his constant reminder of what it looks like to live with integrity. And like that, so we had these 5 core values at Michigan, diligence, appreciation, passion, unity, and integrity. And that integrity piece, the integrity he showed by not only by honoring my scholarship, and that the great thing is the headlines on ESPN.com say, John Beilein honors a scholarship of Austin Hatch, who was involved in a really bad accident and can't play anymore, like he used to when he was being recruited. That said, those articles in the headlines showed what Coach Beilein did, but they didn't show how he did it, right? They weren't there every day to show the little things he did to include me and to, to make me, give me a role. They weren't there. They didn't see any of that. So yeah, I think probably above all those things. So treat everyone like they matter, regardless of role. But I think the biggest one is to do the common thing in an uncommon way. Do the common thing in an uncommon way, right?
That's awesome. So awesome. So a couple different things that came to mind there for me was, it would have been, you're right, it would have been so easy for him, and especially in the social media world, and especially this recruiting look at me world of this, I mean, basketball, it's whether it's college or NBA, there's millions upon millions of dollars in it and involved. For him to just grab the headline and not actually treat you with the respect that he did, right? So to grab the headline that, he felt almost like, let's say someone could have felt almost obligated to earn that headline, but not really earn the respect and the place that you got on the team and where the seat at the table that he gave you.
No.
And right. So that's what came to mind there is, that is a high integrity person, that he wasn't just doing it for the headline. He was doing it because he meant it.
Mm-hmm.
And that had to mean the world to you, probably still looking for that father figure after having your dad die.
Yeah.
Tragically.
No, it's incredible. It's incredible. And, I think, just what we do is not as important as how we do it. Right. And kind of like you said, the headline is the what, right? And a lot of people, that's all they see. All they see is the what, right? They see John Beilein honors my scholarship. Oh, it's that's a feel good story. One of those, things you see on ESPN, man, how cool is that? But like I said, they didn't see the how. And I think and even if no one knows the how, even if he was a jerk to me for 4 years, no one would have known. They would have seen what he did and thought, oh, what a great guy. But going back to that integrity piece, even though no one knew and no one could see it, he was treating me, I don't want to say treating me the right way, even when nobody was looking. He was, just doing things with character, with integrity. And yeah, I mean, I'm just so grateful. And from not that I have any, right to say this, but from a leadership perspective, who wouldn't want to run through a brick wall for a guy like that?
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? Like
100%. That's what every leader should strive to feel like, to be like, because if you can have that type of buy-in, your team will follow you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere. And so, by the way, people did get a glimpse of the how. I got a glimpse of the how even before, you and I got to know each other at all, with how you were honored senior night and how you were honored throughout the season and that team. And then the story that ESPN did after, like, that's all well and good. The how was like, if you were just that headline and nothing more, the team wouldn't have loved you like they loved you and bought into, like, because you weren't, a starter, you weren't even that much of a role player, but you meant a lot to the players because you meant a lot to coach.
Yeah. So here's the crazy thing. So Coach Beilein actually tweeted something. It was a few months ago. So I scored 1 point in 4 years, right? I scored 1 point, and it was a free throw that I made against Coppin State. And Big Ten Network posted something about it a few months ago, maybe towards the end of last basketball season. So I guess it was, 7 or 8 months ago now, prior to COVID and everything else. Like Big Ten Network said, what an incredible moment in Michigan history, or, one of the most memorable moments in Michigan history in the last, in recent years or whatever. And Coach Beilein replied to the tweet and said, one of the best days of my life. For anyone who did not get to see Austin play in high school, he was terrific. I thought he was going to be a 3 or 4 year starter at Michigan, but he actually gave us more than that with his attitude. He was a huge part of our success. And I don't say that to say, look, what a great role I filled on the team or anything. All I'm trying to say is I scored 1 point in 4 years. And here you have a head coach, John Beilein, who's one of the best coaches in the country when he was coaching college. And he's just saying that I gave more to the team by bringing a positive attitude and contributing in the ways that I could by taking my role seriously. And that kind of brings me back to the whole, there's a line, a rising tide lifts all boats 7 days a week. Right. And there's no way that if everyone on any team in any organization brings it every day, regardless of role. If all I could do in practice was shag balls for guys and help with drills, if that's all I could do, if I could rebound and shoot around and shag balls in practice 1% better, even if that doesn't make my teammates, maybe there's no correlation between the two, between my shagging balls and their performance on the court, but it can't do anything but make a positive impact. It's not going to make a negative impact. Me bringing it every day. And I'm just like, you know what? And the great thing is, and so actually that's one of the things I talk about is the team first mentality, right? You know, thinking about the team first, filling our roles on our team to the best of our ability. And I'm reminded of the fact that, like, there were days and I didn't think my role was important, right? I'm sure there are people on your team or on any team who may not feel like these people as individuals, they don't think their role is as important as some other people. That's understandable. But I was quick to remember that if coach has me here, if I'm on the team and he's giving me a role, that role is important. It wouldn't be worth his time otherwise, right? And so, yeah, I just, if I just take pride in we all should take pride in our roles, fill our roles to the best of our ability. And I think that's a great way we can show our appreciation for the opportunity to be on the team. So,
and not only that, it gets noticed and gets you that next opportunity. But I don't want to lose in what you just said and all of what you just said, the humility that you just showed. Like, how many people would, you get a Division I scholarship and you think you should be the starter, or you think you should be at least a role player, and you're not getting that time, so you're not going to put in that effort in practice. How many people would get their ego in the way and their pride in the way of doing what's best for the team? And what you just said there really illustrated not only A, who you are as a person, but A, who everyone should strive to be as a person, regardless of who you think you should be, and having that vision of being a bigger person, being a starter, being the next CEO, whatever. You got to carry the crown before you can wear the crown. And so that's shagging balls, that's fetching towels, fetching water, whatever it might be, to be the best teammate that you can be, to be the best follower you can be, so that someday you can be the best leader.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, the great thing is, so that's like I mentioned, that was part of my message that I talk about when I travel the country speaking, or at least now when I virtually speak across the country. And it's very much within our control. Like, not everyone's going to be able to shoot, 40% from 3-point line in game, or 90% from the free throw line. I mean, you can't make every shot, but there's no reason that we can't bring it every day and fill our roles to the very best of our ability. And I'm not saying, make every shot or make sure everything goes right every day, because it's not going to. But just control 100% of the things we can control. And actually, there's a Jerry Rice quote that said, Jerry Rice, one of the best wide receivers in NFL history, maybe the best. And he said, why wouldn't I give 100% to the things that are 100% within my control? Why wouldn't we? Like, that'd be like, you have a wide open layup, but you're just going to miss it. Like, why would you do that? Why would we intentionally make things harder on ourselves by not giving it our best effort all the time? And, it's kind of like, I think, before the second accident, I was working to be the best basketball player that I could be. Right. And the second accident happened. I couldn't control it, obviously, but the lesson that I learned by, putting my time into the game, that now, okay, just apply the same mentality just towards a different goal. Because I think how we approach anything is how we approach everything. I'm not a whole big fan of like turning it on, turning it off. Like, I mean, maybe you do to some degree, but it's like, it's not the way. If you take things seriously, if we're used to taking things seriously, if we're used to, overcoming smaller obstacles, whenever the big one comes, we'll just do the same thing, because it's just what we do, right?
Agreed, 100%. And I love that. You're right. And by the way, I got to experience that Jerry Rice quote live at a Ben Newman boot camp, and Jerry was there, and he was an idol of mine growing up. And he says that, and you always heard the folklore of Jerry's work ethic. And that's what he was referencing, is like, you always heard the folklore of where he worked out in that mountain that he would sprint up, and other football players, professional football players and other athletes would try and keep up, and they couldn't do it. And again, he just had an insane and insatiable appetite to work hard to be the best that he could be. And it's a great lesson that you're carrying on as well. I want to shift gears a little bit because you talked a lot about the mental toughness. I also want to talk a little bit about mental health because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. You had two major traumatic events in your life, and I'm sure there's been some other trauma that's happened outside of those two main things. How have you worked on your mental health and making sure that your mind and spirit is right to be the best you and to overcome some of that trauma and be able to take these lessons and move them on to the masses?
You know, I've been so blessed to have the incredible support system that I've had, and people who helped me overcome the loss. I don't want to say overcome the loss because I don't think like it's okay to not actually overcome it. Like in this context, you know, it's not like the reason I say that is because overcome. It's not like when you overcome it, then the loss is just non-existent. The loss is
Right.
always going to be there, and that's okay. But like I think that I just choose to, and there were tough days, and there still are tough days, right? When I miss my family, rightfully so. And I think what could be, what should be, and I wonder, like who my family would be today. And unfortunately, I'm never going to know. And that's a painful thing to, painful realization to come to. But I've chosen to focus on what I'm so blessed to have in the midst of all that I've lost. And that doesn't diminish what I've been through. Cause like I said, I've been through some terrible stuff, lost incredible things. Like, it's almost like incomprehensible, the loss that I've had to experience, but I can't let I've had two of the worst days that anyone could ever have. Right. But I can't let those two really, really bad days outshine all the other great days and blessings that I have in my life, because, it's been, the research shows it's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. It's hard to be stressed and grateful and thankful at the same time. And if I focus on how blessed I am to have the incredible wife that I do, and the incredible grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, in-laws, like extended family, and if I focus on that, I mean, it's hard to be overcome by the loss. I'm not saying it's wrong to be overcome by the loss, because I'm sure there are people who are listening to this who are dealing with, some challenging things. And my thoughts, prayers with all of the listeners, and condolences to anyone who's lost people. But yeah, I just choose to, just live in my family's memory and so they unfortunately passed away far too early. Right. But I was so fortunate to have the incredible, 8, almost 9 years with my mom and siblings, and then 9 years with my dad and second mom, right? Or not 9 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
No, was there any active steps? Did you work with counselors? Did you, did you dive into reading to understand any better? Anything that helped you with your mental toughness? Because it just seems like, right. So I want to say two things here. First of all, and I've learned this over time, is we can't compare trauma.
No.
We cannot do it. Like, there's 99.9% of people are sitting here, including myself, saying there's no way that I could compare to the trauma that Austin Hatch has been through. But that doesn't make our trauma any less traumatic.
No.
Right? So our pain is our pain, and we have to overcome that. So when I ask these questions to you, I'm not expecting you to have an answer for anyone else. Because you've gone through such traumatic things, and you appear to be and seem to be, from all my conversations with you, so mentally strong and just centered in gratefulness. Is there any steps that you've taken that you would recommend for others that are going through their own trauma?
Yeah, well, I think I've learned that. So I didn't really go through any, like formal counseling. Well, I did after the first one for like a week, and it just didn't work for me. And so it was just my dad. My dad was my counselor, and he wasn't really a counselor. He was just my dad, right? And just being with him and being together, and that was my counseling, therapy, if you will. And so he led the way. I can't imagine. I'm married now. My wife and I have been married for, going on 3 years, and So yeah, but he was with my mom for 23. They dated 8 years before they were married. They were high school sweethearts. Met my dad's sophomore year of high school, my mom's freshman year of high school, and then they were homecoming king, homecoming queen in high school, and so I'm like an awesome story and everything. And then my dad went to a small school in Michigan, played football, and then did some grad school work at Michigan before going to medical school at Wake Forest. And my mom went to Michigan, and then, so they were together 8 years before they were married, and then they were married 17 years when the accident happened, right? And I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess so they were together 25 years prior to that accident.
Yeah.
My wife and I have been married, going on 3, and have been together, 7 years, right? And like I can't imagine what it's like losing her. Of course, no one can imagine that. No one should imagine that. But yeah, we just tried to do what we could to honor them every single day. And that's how I feel now too, because even though my family's all gone, I have the opportunity to honor them every single day by how I live, how I love my wife, how I'll someday love our family and be a husband and father to our kids. If we're blessed with a family, hopefully we will be someday. So yeah, I think that I tried to shift my focus from the events and this doesn't diminish the events by any means, or doesn't diminish the loss, but I just tried to look at how blessed I was to have had what I did for as long as I did, and also to how blessed I am to have what I still have. Because yeah, like I said, if we focus on being grateful, it's hard to be negative and hard to be, overcome by the tragedy and the grief and the loss. And that doesn't diminish the grief, but and I'm not saying it's wrong to grieve. I just choose to, like, for me, it's, I don't get much out of, there are really hard days where I cry, on birthdays and anniversaries and things like that. But if I just think about how great it was to have had what I did and focus on the memories, it's like, there's a song by Maroon 5. It's called Memories, and it says, cheers to the ones that we got, like cheers to the ones that are still here. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. Right. And it's like, man, like cheers to the ones that I got. Right. But also like, I cheers and to my family that I wish was here, but they're not. And, it's not the same. But then that song, Memories, then one of the last lines is like, like all we have is memories.
Mm-hmm. So make good ones and remember them. And that leads actually to one of the habits that I wish I did more, but I've started to do in journaling and remembering good things and bad things and how you overcome them. The journaling really helps that. And I go back to my notes. I have lots of notebooks that I go back to. I'm like, oh man, that was really good. I should remember that more often. Mm-hmm. And so I think if you're not journaling, Austin, that would be a suggestion, because especially as you go into fatherhood, it's great. It's a great experience, great exercise to record, because our memory, just frankly, isn't that great. So, so we got to be able to record those great things. All right, I want to wrap things up here, and it's just an incredible conversation today. Your attitude and outlook, perseverance, the lessons from your dad and Coach Beeline are just amazing for everyone to hear. And especially, just in this world right now where we're so focused on, yesterday was the election, so politics and social media and getting likes and stuff like that. Your social media posts don't matter. Those interactions like your dad had with Josiah at McDonald's, that Coach Beeline has with anyone else, or the janitor like you talked about with your dad, those interactions are what matter in life. So I want to make sure that everyone's focused on those and focused on your story with that, versus we're still waiting on the outcome of this election, and we're still, just be kind to your neighbors, be kind, work hard. I love all of your messaging today. One last thing I want to touch on that I know you and Chad spoke of. What are your 4 components to grit?
So grit's 4 letters. And using my great mission education, you'd think there are 4 key components to it. but it's actually driven by a fifth component, or the first component of grit, I think, is working for a greater purpose, first and foremost. I think we need to work for something bigger than ourselves, because if anyone in the world is working just for ourselves, I think it's pretty likely that life's going to present us with adversity, opposition, challenge, trial, tribulation, what have you, that'll cause us to give up or give in because we don't really have a driving force for why we do what we do. Whatever the driving force is, it's different for everyone in the world, but whether it's your faith, your family, your friends, your teammates, hopefully all of us are somewhat internally driven to be the best we can be. But I think having that greater purpose is really important, and having that greater purpose will drive us to do what it takes to overcome the adversity that we face. So the 4 components of grit, that greater purpose will drive grit as well. So first, the 4 components of grit, the G stands for the growth mindset. The growth mindset views every setback, every failure, every adversity as an opportunity. Even when we inevitably fall short, the growth mindset believes we can use that as an opportunity to get better. Every time after we lose a game that we shouldn't have, we didn't lose many games at Michigan that we shouldn't have, but when we would, Coach Beilein would always say every time, we're going to watch the film of the game and we're going to find a way to get better from it. Having that growth mindset, especially for those of us on the team, for Coach Beilein as the leader, how could he tell us to have the growth mindset if he didn't have it, right? So, and have that growth mindset that'll drive us to make the decision to be resilient. The decision to be resilient means we focus more on our response to the adversity we face rather than dwelling on the less than ideal circumstances that we can't control. Because if we can't, Coach Wooden said, if you spend too much time and energy focusing on the things over which you have no control, it will adversely affect the things over which you have control. And so if I spend too much time and energy dwelling on the fact that, this day didn't go well, or I didn't get this deal for whatever reason, okay, that's going to adversely affect my, how I do in the future as well. That's not saying ignore the reality, because I think we can learn when things don't go. We can learn from losses. It's more than we do from wins. And the I in grit is the decision to live with integrity. And of course, integrity is being honest, doing nothing when no one is looking. But I think especially in the context of overcoming any obstacle or achieving any goal, integrity is about following through on our commitments. Those are a commitment we make to ourselves, but more importantly, a commitment we make to our teammates, right? Following through, doing what we said we would do, especially when our circumstances change. You look at like what Coach Beilein did for me. He offered me when things were good. Our circumstances changed. I couldn't play, but his follow through didn't. So I think if we can all make it a priority to follow through on our commitments, I think that's a way to give ourselves a competitive advantage. The last letter is T. T to me is the team first mentality. I think we should always think about the team first. We should train ourselves to think we before me. And we should remember that a rising tide lifts all boats. If we all fill our roles, make the effort to fill our roles to the very best of our ability, there's no way that can help the team win. So
that's awesome. Growth mindset, resilience, integrity, team mindset.
Yes, sir.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we're going to get into some more words, right? We're going to play the word game I told you about.
Ready
to go?
I'm ready as I can be.
All right. So for the audience, again, reminder, I'm going to say one word. Austin's going to give us his gut reaction. He gets a one word or short phrase response, and he cannot repeat himself. Austin, happiness.
Abby. My
His
wife.
Abby. Pain.
Opportunity.
Life.
Amazing.
Death.
Inevitable.
Mom.
Beautiful.
Dad.
Mentor.
Courage.
Resilience.
I actually was thinking of that word for you as you said it. So that was pretty good. You hit it spot on.
Yeah, good deal.
Faith.
Belief.
Inspire or inspiration.
Respond. Like
Impact.
respond. Because I think what we have to realize, this is getting into a longer answer than you look for, but we all have the opportunity to inspire people. And most of the time we don't inspire people by how we do when things are good. We inspire people by how we choose to respond when things are tough. So.
Yeah, I love that. So I will take that response all day, even though it was more than one word. So, all right, last one, impact.
Opportunity.
Wait, did you already say opportunity?
Yeah, you said adversity. Impact. Blessing.
All right, that's good. All right, favorite book of all time or most recently read book that you want to give a shout out to?
My dad and I, when I was the summer after my 8th grade year, we were going into high school, we read, he would make me read in the summertime because I wasn't in school. He would make me read an hour a day, which was a great thing that he did for me cognitively, keep my mind active. And Outliers, we read by Malcolm Gladwell.
Great
The Story
book.
of Success. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting about you saying that is I think for any parent that has a reading age child, instead of paying them for chores, pay them to read books. And I would give you that, Austin, not that you wouldn't have done that as a father anyhow because of what your father did for you, but reading books like that, holy cow. If I could give my kids books like Think and Grow Rich and Outliers and Girl Wash Your Face because I have daughters, like all this different stuff that builds them mentally, cognitively, like you mentioned, spiritually, like that grows their emotional being as well as their intellect, like great, I'll pick up the house if they're actually reading those types of books.
No, all day long. Yeah, I'm reminded of, there's so Malcolm Gladwell studied some really interesting stuff, and he calculated that there's one of the chapters, it's called the 10,000 hour rule, and he calculated whether it was the Beatles or Bill Joy who invented the internet. He calculated that most people who have achieved mastery at anything, whether it's Beatles or technology or Tiger Woods or whoever, they've all put in a minimum of 10,000 hours into their craft. They all have one thing in common, and it's at least 10,000 hours. And you think about that. I mean, there's no substitute for hard work. And, and I think that the reality is that it's gonna be hard, to achieve great, hopefully, because one of the worst things we can do for ourselves is set our goals too low and achieve them. Right. And it should be hard. It should take 10,000 hours or whatever to get to where we want to be. And and for me, after the second action that I faced, I told myself early on from the time I couldn't walk. And I said, even if I don't get back to playing at Michigan or get to the level where I can actually play, contribute, you better believe it's not going to be because I didn't work hard enough. So.
Oh, that's great. And as we were joking about our golf game before we started recording, you and I just haven't put in our 10,000 hours yet to be good enough.
No.
Right?
Yeah. You know what? I think, so it's like Dustin Johnson, it was Brooks Koepka won the U.S. Open when it was in Wisconsin, right at Erin Hills.
Yep.
And then I think after Saturday's round, he went to the range and hit like 1,000 balls because there was something he needed to work out. He was leading the U.S. Open, and then he went and spent like 4 or 5 hours on the range that night. So
commitment and desire.
Yeah.
All right. How can the audience follow you, get in touch with you if they want to hire you to speak? What's the best mediums there for you?
Yeah. So, my on LinkedIn is a good way to get in touch with me, but we actually just launched our website a couple of days ago. It's austin-hatch.com. austin-hatch.com. There's a way you can, get in touch with me if, fill out some information, contact info, and I'll be happy to make a personal phone call to you to get in touch and see if there's any opportunity for me to, help your team, add value, inspire your organization. So I'll be honored and very grateful for any and all opportunities. So thank you very much. And my email is austin@austin-hatch.com as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I am honored to have you on today to have this conversation. This was awesome. I know that our audience is going to get so much from this. Like, you're a true inspiration, whether you want to, say that about yourself or not, because you're a humble guy. And the grit formula, phenomenal. Everyone can live by that. And some of the stories I hope really resonate with everyone like they did with me. But loved having you on, buddy. Can't wait for you to speak to my organization next week. And everyone else in the audience, inspire and impact. We'll see you later.